What's up, Raider Nation? Big news out of Vegas. Star defensive tackle Christian Wilkins is still not fully recovered from foot surgery he had back in October 2024. That's nearly 9 months ago, and now we've learned he might need a second surgery, one that could end his season before it even starts. But here's the twist. Wilkins wants to fight through it. Raiders medical staff are recommending another surgery, but he's refusing to shut it down. That puts the Raiders in a tricky spot. Because let's be real, players like Wilkins don't come around often, and replacing him isn't going to be a one-man job. So, what now? Well, head coach Pete Carroll and GM John Spike might not be looking outside the building just yet. With strong belief in the system built by Rob Leonard and Patrick Graham, the Raiders could stick to what they already have on the roster. We're going to explore who could possibly step up in Wilkins' place. Is it a defensive tackle already on the depth chart? Or maybe someone from the edge slides inside and takes on a new role? But before we dive into the names you need to watch this season, make sure you hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and don't forget to ring the bell so you never miss breaking Raiders news. This is the place for real fans. All right, let's break it down. With Wilkins uncertain and the Raiders choosing patience over panic, who on this squad is ready to be the next man up? The answer might surprise you, and it could shape the entire season for the Silver and Black. When a warrior falls, someone must rise. And if Christian Wilkins can't be 100% Raider Nation, someone on that line better be ready to take his spot, and fast. So let's break down 5 names who could be the next man up. Coming in at number, Vishi Jonah Laulu, a young, energetic presence on the interior. Laulu may be a bit undersized, but don't count him out. He's quick off the snap and plays with a chip on his shoulder. With reps and the right scheme, he could become a valuable rotational piece in the trenches. Number 4, Tonka Hemingway. While both Hemingway and rookie J.J. Peggs are in the mix, Tonka gets the edge here, not just because he was drafted earlier, but because of his raw explosiveness. Coaches have been keeping a close eye on his development, and his ability to handle double teams could be a game changer. At number 3, Adam Butler. A returning veteran who quietly re-signed to a 3-year deal, Butler might have been the Raiders' contingency plan all along. He knows the system, brings solid experience, and right now, he's arguably the most reliable tackle on the roster. Number 2, Leki Fotu. If you're looking for size and brute force, Fotu's your guy. At over 330 pounds, his role might not be flashy, but it's critical, eating double teams, clogging gaps, and letting the rest of the defense flow freely. If Wilkins is sidelined, Fotu's role becomes even more important. And finally, number 1, Tyree Wilson. Yes, you heard that right. Tyree Wilson might be the biggest answer to the Wilkins dilemma. He's not just a pass rusher off the edge. He has the length, the size, and the strength to slide inside when needed. And with the Raiders' recent additions of versatile defenders like Hemingway and P-Gaze, it's clear this defense is trending toward flexibility. Tyree's development could be the key to keeping the defensive line dangerous, even if Wilkins can't go. Whether Wilkins plays or not, expect Wilson to take on a bigger, more versatile role in 2025. Let's be honest, hindsight hits hard. Looking back, many believe the Raiders should have taken Jalen Carter with that number, 7 pick, and now? It's hard to argue, but that decision is done. What's ahead is more important, and Tyree Wilson's time has officially begun. As Wilson heads into a critical contract year, the pressure is on. The Raiders are giving him more snaps, more responsibility, and more expectations. This is it. This is the season where he either breaks through or falls behind. If you ask who needs to step up the most on the defensive line, it's Tyree Wilson. No more projections, no more what he could be. The team needs dominance now. And yes, others on the defense will need to elevate their game. Max Crosby? He already plays like a beast, but the leadership role he carries means even more this year. Zach Carter, Malcolm Kuntz, and rookies like Bo Limmer and Jonah Laulu, they're all on the clock too. If Wilkins is out, every single guy in the front 7 has to raise their game. The standard has shifted. Forget pointing fingers. Forget regrets. What matters now is who responds. If Christian Wilkins misses time, the Raiders can't afford to gamble with depth. They need smart, experienced backups ready to battle in the trenches. And that brings us to a few names worth watching closely. let's start with a familiar face, Quentin Jefferson. He's 32, played with the Raiders back in 2021, and he's no stranger to Pete Carroll's system from his 5 seasons in Seattle. He logged over 250 snaps last year, not flashy, but steady. And with a young defensive line, adding a veteran voice like his could stabilize the room, especially with Max Crosby's backing. Next up, Jonathan Bullard. He might not be a household name, but he's played 34 games and started 31 over the last 2 seasons with the Vikings. That kind of availability matters. He also has history with Pete Carroll from a 2020 stint in Seattle. Back-to-back seasons with 40-plus tackles. That's reliability in a league where durability is everything. Then there's Austin Johnson, a big-bodied nose tackle who brings both experience and power. In 2021, playing under Patrick Graham, he had a career-high 72 tackles and 3.5 sacks. That kind of production doesn't go unnoticed. He's not flashy, but he's physical, and sometimes that's exactly what a defensive front needs. And finally, one name that stands out above the rest, even though he's not a defensive tackle, Jadeveon Clowney. He's got 15 sacks in the last 2 seasons, brings elite pressure off the edge, and can rotate inside when needed. Pair him with Max Crosby, Adam Butler, and Malcolm Kuntz, and suddenly you've built a front 4 with real teeth. Add in his connection to Pete Carroll from 2019, when he earned an 87.3 PFF grade, and the move starts to make even more sense. If the Raiders want to remain a top defensive unit while Wilkins recovers, Clowney could be the missing piece that keeps the heat on opposing offenses every single down. The numbers don't lie. And when it comes to Jadeveon Clowney, there's more value than most fans realize, especially for a Raiders team that might be facing life without Christian Wilkins. Clowney's coming off a season where he logged 5.5 sacks on a struggling Panthers team with little support up front. Even with the odds stacked against him, he was still productive. In 2019, under Pete Carroll's system, he had 650 snaps and posted the second highest PFF grade of his career at 87.3. That includes strong marks in both pass rushing and run defense. Critics often point to his inconsistency with sack totals, but in the last 2 years, he's proven he can still finish plays. When you combine that with his scheme familiarity and the Raiders' current cap flexibility, adding Clowney becomes not just possible, it becomes logical. In fact, instead of scrambling for a defensive tackle to mirror Wilkins' profile, the Raiders may be better off rebuilding the line creatively, adding a versatile edge like Clowney who can rotate inside when needed. With Max Crosby already anchoring the edge, imagine a front that rotates Tyree Wilson, Clowney, Butler, and Kuntz. That's a pressure package built to survive, even without Wilkins. Up next, we'll dive into the more aggressive route, potential trade options for the Raiders if they decide to look outside the building. Some interesting names might be on the block, and you'll want to hear them. If the Raiders are serious about filling the Wilkins void with impact, not just depth, they may need to explore the trade market. And while some names are long shots, the upside is hard to ignore. Let's talk about Trey Hendrickson. Now this would be bold. Hendrickson's been one of the most consistent edge rushers in the NFL, racking up 35 sacks in the last 3 seasons. But here's the catch. He's reportedly looking for a new contract worth around $30 million per year. That price tag makes this trade highly unlikely, but not impossible. If the Raiders want to stack up elite pass rushers and lean fully into pressure defense, he'd be one of the best available. A more realistic target? Tim Settle, a name some fans might recognize from his days with Washington. Settle has often been buried behind loaded defensive lines, but when given opportunities, he's flashed real potential. He brings power inside, plays with low leverage, and could be a strong rotational piece if the price is right. A late-round pick, maybe a 6th, could potentially land him if a team like Houston decides to move on. It wouldn't be a blockbuster, but it might be exactly the kind of smart move the Raiders need to maintain depth and physicality inside. These are just the early trade possibilities, but we're not done yet. There are still a few more intriguing names that could shake things up for the silver and black, especially if Wilkins is sidelined longer than expected. If the Raiders want to stay ahead of disaster, they can't wait for the worst-case scenario. They need backup plans now, and that includes names already being whispered around the league. Let's start with Andrew Billings, a former Raider now with the Chicago Bears. At 6 feet 1 inch, 311 pounds, he's built to eat blocks and anchor the middle. Chicago's recent moves in free agency and the draft may push him down the depth chart. And since he's in the final year of his deal, a move back to Vegas isn't out of the question. Then there's John Franklin Myers. He's been floating around trade rumors, and the Broncos seem open to clearing cap space. With Brian Stark now part of the Raiders' front office and previously tied to Denver, there's real familiarity. If the price was a late-round pick in 2026, Vegas might just make that call. Another possibility is David Onyemata. The Falcons have been reshaping their defensive line, and Onyemata's name keeps popping up in trade speculation. He's a powerful interior lineman who could add stability and veteran presence, especially if Wilkins ends up sidelined longer than expected. And one more name worth mentioning, John Jenkins. He recently signed with Baltimore, but the fit in Vegas makes too much sense. Jenkins is 35, but his size, experience, and past coaching connections align perfectly with what the Raiders need. If Baltimore offered him for a 7th rounder, that's a no-brainer. Jenkins offers more at this point than someone like Leki Fotu, and that's not a knock on youth. It's just recognizing what this defense might need: immediate leadership and reliability up front. Christian Wilkins isn't guaranteed to be at full strength this season. Whether he pushes through or eventually requires surgery, the Raiders must prepare now, not react later. Smart teams anticipate. And if Vegas wants to compete in 2025, they'd better start thinking ahead.